твои окна весна постучится, окно открой.
Hello everyone, my name is Antaya and I welcome to the channel about relationships, which is actually called Отношения, and this is our first episode in English language. So hello Kima, hello Tom and Michelle. Kima, can you introduce our guest?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is Kima, and today we're interviewing this lovely couple who are actually our role models in the relationship. So we know Tom and Michelle from our shared hobby, public speaking, and it's this club called Toastmasters Club. So hi Tom and Michelle, and thank you so much for agreeing to give us this interview.
Well, thank you for having us on your channel.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
The first question is just a general question. Could you please tell us about family?
So in our family, there's Michelle and I, and we have two boys. Joshua, our older son, is 22, and he's a senior studying physics at Montana State University. And our younger son, Leo, is in his senior year of high school here in Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm. So when did you move to Kazakhstan? So you are originally from US, and can you tell us more? When did you move to Kazakhstan?
We moved here in January of 2003. So we have lived here for, I guess, about 17 years.
Wow. So you are almost like American/Kazakh couple, right?
Almost, yes.
Yeah, we're always learning new things, though. Always learning.
So even though we're both from America, we like to say we have a cross-cultural relationship because I'm from Montana and Michelle is from California. So.
So I've heard this story about how you guys met, and I think it's very romantic and interesting. So could you please share this story?
Ladies first.
No, that's not for you. Go ahead.
So we met, when we first met, we were both in New England at the time. I was in Boston, Michelle was in Vermont. And at some different conferences, we got to know each other a little bit from a distance. And then our romance actually did not start until we were in Central Asia. I was teaching in Tashkent, and when Michelle came with a group that came over to do some summer exchange programs, and then she's in Uzbekistan, she looked at me with different eyes because I had admired her from afar, and then she started liking me as well, and we started getting to know each other, and our relationship developed from there.
Right. So we had a summer together in another country, and I think we were in different places. We were in the same place together, but it was both a new place for both of us, and we were able to get to know each other in a new way.
So it's all started in Central Asia, right?
It did. It all started in Central Asia.
That's nice.
So I have a question to Michelle, I guess more. So as Tom mentioned, like you were more like friends at the beginning. So Michelle, what was exactly the moment or the reason when you started considering Tom like more than a friend?
You know, I think it was we were leading a team. We were both leading a team in Central Asia, and I think watching the way that he led, the way that he cared for all of us, the way that we had some teaching time together, and the way that he would be teaching us different things, it caused me to see his heart, I think, and that's what I started to fall in love with.
Oh,
nice.
And what about Tom? So when do you know this moment when you start actually falling in love? What made you like to fall in love actually?
So I think for me, there's things, like I said, when we were just friends, I like Michelle that she was active. When we were single, we did some winter hiking the mountains as a group in New Hampshire, in Mount Adams, and just seeing that she loved the outdoors, loved sports, that she loved people, loved singing. And so we still enjoy an active lifestyle. So those are things that I enjoyed about her. But I think one of the things for me, I knew I wanted to maybe work overseas. And when I found out that she also had an interest in maybe doing that, like my heart was nothing. wow, we have some similar desires and visions. And so it captured my heart through all those things.
Oh, nice.
That's
Nice.
So, and also, she really captured my heart when she saved my life. She saved me from drowning when we were in Uzbekistan. And so,
Could you please share the story? I remember it.
Yeah.
so we were with a group of people, and they were all swimming across this reservoir to jump off a big rock. And I knew I wasn't a very good swimmer, but I also didn't want to seem like a coward in front of Michelle. So I said, Michelle, I'm going to try and swim across, but can you stay close to me just in case? And I don't think she thought I was being serious. And so we're about not even halfway across, and I'm kind of like, I think I need some help here. And then she can help me get back to shore. And so now I tell her, if you ever get upset with me, you just have yourself to blame, because you had a chance to let me go, but you saved me.
Yeah. And I think this situation shows that you can rely on this person. You can rely your life on a person, right? After this situation happened and she actually saved your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, interesting to think back that really happened, because I don't think I could do that today. I don't think I could.
Really?
So I guess, yeah, God gave some skills that I was able to execute at that moment to help you back. My goodness.
Oh, that's a nice story. So our question is, the next question is like more into comparison, since you have this vision, both, like USA vision and Kazakhstan vision, since you've lived in both cultures for so many years. So what do you think is the difference between Kazakh families and American families?
A good question.
That's a good question. I guess my first answer would be to point out how they're similar, first of all, before talking about how they're different. And I think they're similar in that, Kazakh families, American families, that people as families love being together. You love creating memories, that people enjoy having holidays together, celebrating different holidays with the food, the traditions, those different things. So I think there's a lot of similarities in that sense, putting a value on relationships.
That's true. I mean, I would say a few differences would be, and I see this because I have a son who's 22. In American culture, your family is very, very important, and it's still important. But when your child turns 18, you give them wings to fly. They go away from the family and they start going away to university. They don't live at home anymore. And I think it's, Kazakhstan family, they stay pretty close together. And so many of my friends, when they go to university, will live at home, or even friends of mine now that live and work in Almaty, if they're from Almaty, they just naturally live with their families. Yeah. And so I actually, being a mother now and having a son who's gone, I'm like, I think I like that. I think I want my son to stay living at home. But, I think the American tradition is becoming an adult means being on your own. And I think in Kazakhstan family, becoming an adult is different. There's different way getting married, or I think also in American families, the kids move away, but they tend to get later in life, they get married. So they're still connected longer, I think, to their original family. In Kazakhstan families, a lot of the children get married earlier, and then they start their own family, and they still have connection, but they're also creating their own identity as a family. So it's interesting. I think that's some differences that I see.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, the other difference that I see in thinking about it is in the book of Genesis, it talks about, and Jesus talks about this, that you get married, a man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. So we use the phrase, you leave one family and then you cleave and you form your own new family. But in Kazakh culture, especially the youngest son does not leave his parents. He stays with his parents and the wife joins that family. And so there's some good things about being together like that when there's good relationships. But with a lot of our local friends, we know that there's hard things because the challenges of the in-laws having a lot of influence on the husband. And the wife doesn't feel like she comes first sometimes. And so where in America, when you live separately, it's easier to have your own identity. Where here, it's hard when you're living together to have that separation and have your own identity.
Yeah, I mean, American families have the same challenges of how much influence families have on new couples, you know, but yeah, it's just interesting, you know, there are differences, similarities.
But what do you think about your younger son, Leo? Would you prefer him actually to stay with you and live even when he gets married?
Well, that's an interesting thing too, because I turned 60 this year.
Yeah.
And
Congrats.
so my neighbors next door who are Uyghur, she came up to me and said, Michelle, where are your grandchildren? And I said, I don't have any grandchildren. My children are not married. You need to go to Joshua. You need to tell him, give me grandchildren. It's time. I'm getting old. And
this is so Kazakh.
This is so Kazakh.
Because I think in some ways, I had a conversation with my friend. In American culture, the other part of giving your children wings and having them go and become independent is that couples stay active. You know, the goal is not for me to sit in my chair and have grandchildren and have everyone come to me. I mean, I think that would be nice, but that's not the American culture. So, you know, we will still stay active even as long as we can, you know, that we have to be ready for our children not to come home.
Yeah, so you shared some of your traditions that you often go to mountains, to hiking with your family. Can you share some more traditions that are in your family? Some customs, traditions, some habits in your relationships, in your family?
So a lot of our traditions have to maybe do with some of the holidays. So at Christmas, Michelle does a wonderful job of decorating our home.
Yeah, we've been to Christmas party.
Lights up, and we call it garland, the green things. And then with the Christmas tree, we have certain Christmas ornaments that we put up that have special meaning. Michelle's mom gave us an ornament when we were first married that has the year 1995. When Joshua was born, she gave us a special ornament that has baby's first Christmas. So a lot of the ornaments have special meaning. And so we like to, you know, and also on Christmas, we like to do programs, sometimes reenact a Christmas story. We sometimes do it with our children or friends that are around.
Yeah, and we try to make birthdays, like when it's your birthday, what is a special dinner for you? We like to celebrate American holidays like 4th of July, making something special. Yeah, so I feel like our traditions, you know, at Christmas, we love to ski as a family. One thing we tried long ago is try to find some things that the 4 of us can do as a family. And so we enjoy biking and we enjoy skiing together. And so during December, in between Christmas and New Year's, we will go and stay in a hotel for a couple nights and go skiing and eat out and just make it special. Eat out for dinner, just go sledding or do things that create memories, because as your children get older and they start their own lives, you know, it's nice to have those family memories that you can come back to. And so those are some of the things that we do.
Yeah.
And then we had like other
So
traditions,
nice.
like nightly traditions. When Josh was little, we used to read, we had like a children's Bible. It was called the Rhyme Bible. And so it is, you know, kind of had a tempo to it. And he would read a lot of the stories to him, and Michelle would come and sing songs to the boys. So
yeah, that was a tradition too, a nightly routine that we would read and sing to our boys when they were younger every night.
That's nice.
I remember you guys shared with our Toastmasters friends one of your principles, which you called fall, like abbreviation. And maybe could you please talk about that and even beyond? What are the principles of your happy marriage?
well, the following acronym, the first one, F, talks about forgiveness. And so what makes for always happy family? We're not always happy. Sometimes there's conflict. Sometimes there's misunderstandings. We hurt each other. And what helps us to get through those things is to say you're sorry and to forgive one another. And forgiveness helps you to begin afresh and to start new.
And then A was available, being available for one another, to do things together, to enjoy, to find common interests. Because I even notice when Tom and I are really, really busy, and then you can, you know, he gets in my way, or I'm upset, or why is he doing this? If we take part in those activities that we enjoy together, it definitely just, it's nice to enjoy one another, because we are in such a busy world. When we take time to enjoy one another, it causes everything else to go smoother. So that's A.
And then L is listen. So learning to be a good listener. And so that's something I'm not always good at. I have to work at it. So listening, I think, is not just listening to what the words people are saying with their mouth, but also listening with your heart, trying to understand what are the feelings that are there and trying to capture those. And especially as a guy, it's not about trying to solve issues, but it's just learning to listen and to be empathetic in listening.
And then the last is love. You know, we are faith-based, and so there's a Bible verse that says love covers a multitude of transgressions. So when we have that love, it covers lots of different things. And so I don't know if it's a secret, but that's kind of, I would say, really the principles that we try to live by. And when one of those are out of balance, we feel it. And sometimes it takes one of us to be humble to one another and realize that, and take the initiative with one another. And we need to recognize those things. But yeah, those principles definitely help us live with each other in love and harmony.
Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing. So thank you.
Yeah, so I have this question. Tom, you've mentioned that like you are not always happy. Sometimes you have conflicts. So I'm wondering, how do you handle them specifically? For example, if there's some misunderstanding with each other, how do you approach that?
So I think, I mean, it takes different forms at different times, but I think, as Michelle said, a key thing is to be humble and to recognize that what are contributions I've made to the conflict or the misunderstanding. And as Michelle said, also to take the initiative.
Contribution, that's such a positive word.
Yes.
What contributions have you made to this conflict?
It does take two to tango. So it's usually both parties have some guilt in it. But I think it's being the one to go first and say, I'm sorry. One of the things we found out, if one of us says we're sorry first and the other says, oh, I'm also sorry. But sometimes it's hard to be the first to say, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And I think it's taking a step, sometimes what helps is taking a step back and saying, what do I really want? Do I want to stay in this stalemate where we're at odds with each other? I think the other thing for me, just recognizing that sometimes there's external factors at play that affect our relationship. You know, maybe it could be tiredness, it could be other conflicts that are coming in. And when we understand what's going on with ourselves or with our spouse, it helps us to work through those things and to come together again.
Yeah. Thank you. The next question will be about homework. So I'm just wondering what other like job splitting, home work splitting you have in your family. Could you share this as well?
You know, I think it depends on what we're doing. You know, for example, if I make dinner, sometimes Tom will clean up, he'll do dishes, but then other times our son may need some attention. Our Leo, like he needs to go practice basketball or go do something. And I'll say, you know what, I'll clean up, you go take Leo and do what he needs to do with his work. We had some guests coming over the other day and he helped, you know, help getting the house in order. You know, I just think we try, if we don't communicate, that there can be expectations unsaid. And then if I expect him to do something, but I don't ask him and he doesn't do it, then I can get upset. But I feel like the more that we're talking and we're communicating with each other, then we can really help each other around the house or around whatever we're doing. So, you know, I don't think it's assumed what I will do and what Tom will do. Maybe somewhat, but then it's also good to communicate, because if we're both out all day, if I'm teaching at our school or Tom's at meetings, or, you know, both of us are out, when we both come home, it's not always a given that, oh, I'm going to do all this. You know, Tom will help make a salad or, yeah. So it's nice. That I appreciate that.
And one of the things that I have learned is when one person is taking on to do something, just let them do it the way they want to do it. In our first months of marriage, I tried to explain to Michelle how my mom cut onions and how she was really wrong. That was not received very well. And I came to realize, you know what? When Michelle makes it, they turn out really delicious. It doesn't matter how she cuts onions. That's not important. But for some reason, it was hard for me to let a little thing like that go. But as we've gotten more years under the belt, it's like, yeah, you don't have to worry about those things. So
yeah, that's true.
So I guess like when you talked about it, I realized that another difference between Kazakh families and American families is that you guys don't have any expectations, like this is, you know, ladies' job, this is like man's job, and you communicate, and based on the result of that communication you split the work. Well, in Kazakh families there are quite strong expectations that this what, you know, women do and this is what men do.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys mentioned that you have these two wonderful sons. It's Leo and Joshua. So could you please share your tips or advice or principles, how you brought them up?
And still upbringing, right? Because Leo is still like living with you. Yeah,
that's right. Leo's still around.
Yeah.
Principles of bringing him up. I mean, I think family. And I think this is a Kazakh tradition, which I do appreciate. Family is very important. And so family, I was brought up also that family is very important. I'm one of 3 children, not a big family, but I have a large extended family. You know, dinner was every night at 6 p.m. There was consistency in our schedule. My parents tried to help me succeed in different things. And so I think those were principles I feel like for me, and I think for Tom and I, just wanting to have consistency in our children's lives. That's why we would read to them every night. That's why we would have dinner every night at 6.
Why we help coach their sports so they could participate in sports,
Yeah,
whether it's
we
baseball or
wanted to
basketball.
be active in their lives and what they were doing in the midst of our own lives. So yeah, I mean, I really feel like, you know, we see that children are a gift from the Lord. I mean, our story of our children, Joshua is biological and Leo is adopted. And you know, I think because I wasn't able to have any more children, I really see both boys as very special gifts to us. You know, I would tell both my boys that my older son Joshua grew in my tummy and our younger son Leo grew in our heart. And we're very grateful for both of them. They're both very different. And I think also treating them as individuals, you know, they each have their own gifts and not trying to fit either one into a box, you know. I don't know if you have anything else, but
yeah. I mean, I think moms and dads are different. I mean, there are some stereotypes that fit. And so Michelle's very caring and loving. She wants to give and provide the best for her boys. I remember one time Joshua forgot his homework and she's ready to get in the car and bring the homework to school. And I'm like, no, he needs to learn a lesson. He won't turn his homework in today. And she's like, no, I'll do it. I'm happy to do it. We'll do it this once. You know, so she's more kind and some of those things. And I think they're both needed at different points as our kids get older. And, you know, Josh wants to travel farther or do something. No, he'll be okay. Trust him. Let him do that. Where she may be worried about his safety and different things. And so we help each other with those things to connect, to let our kids spread their wings or to feel loved and to feel cared for. So.
And also, I mean, I think we were just talking to some other friends. I think as your children, their friends have also a big influence in their lives, and it's good to know who their friends are.
Yeah. So creating this environment for them to blossom, basically.
And so we tried to host things in our home, or if we went hiking, we'd include our friends of our boys to go, or we'd host birthday parties and let people come over. And so their friends got to know us as well, not just our boys. So.
Yeah, it's good because I always see your pictures, how you go hiking, and there's always like big crowd of people. I was like, wow, so they're like hiking with such like a lot of people together. And it's so nice that you are actually building relationships with the friends of your kids. So this is actually a very, very good approach to upbringing a kid.
So I guess, yeah, it brings us to the last question.
What would be the one advice that you give to families to be happy in marriages? So what is like this key to the happy marriage?
I would say a key thing is recognizing that your spouse, your wife or your husband is a gift from God. So looking at, I guess, kind of the cup is half full, not half empty. So if you focus on the positive things in your wife or your husband, I think it goes a long ways in seeing that how you complement each other, how you help each other, versus looking, sometimes we can get stuck in a negative space. We're looking at the negative things. Love is a choice sometimes. It's not always just a feeling. It's a choice to say, I wish the best for you, and I'm going to make choices that are in your best interests. And what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think all that is true. I think I was engaged before to get married, and I'm thankful it didn't work out. So I mean, I think there is a desire to share your life with someone. I think we need to be careful, you know, as we go into these relationships. And I think, but once we do make that commitment, we need to really work at it, and we really need to fight for our marriages. You know, our marriages are under a lot of stress today in the world, in Kazakhstan, in America, all over the world. And so it's so easy to split apart because of how do you say it? Irreconcilable differences or something. But you know, we encourage couples to really fight for the marriage, because marriage is good for each other. It's good for our community. Marriage is good for our country. You know, to have a strong Kazakhstan means to have strong marriages. And so my advice is, if you are married and maybe things aren't going great, you know, maybe the story has started differently, but you can change that. You can have a good ending and change the ending and work on your marriage. So I think we have to fight for good relationships.
Yeah, so I think it's probably advice would be, as Michelle said, it takes work, it takes intentionality. It's not like in the movies where if you have these feelings of infatuation that you'll understand each other perfectly, there'll be no problems. That's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And there are those moments like that when you do really get each other, you feel loved, you feel lifted up. There's also those times when it takes work to work through the difficulties and come back through to those happy places again. So I would like to give one more piece of advice if people are dating, thinking about marrying somebody. And, you know, we were talking about if you're already married, what do you need to do? But I think a key thing is, before you get married, you need to really look at the person. What are their values? Do they really value family? Is it all about getting money, or do they value like being loyal, being honest with each other, serving one another? And watch how the person you're dating, how do they relate in groups and with their friends? You really want to see people not just on a nice date and a dinner where everyone's on their best behavior. You want to see, how do they relate to others on their sports teams? When things don't go well, when they lose, how do they respond? You want to see if someone else needs help in the workplace or on a project. Are they someone who comes along and helps other people, or do they just do things when they get noticed, and things like that? So you're seeing how they respond, because how they respond in those situations is how they're going to be once you get married. It's very easy to be on your best behavior when you're dating, but how they relate to their friends and their parents and their family is better clue how they're going to relate to you once you're married. So you want to take a look at that.
It's nice. Great advice.
It's very important. Yeah. Thank you.
So thanks a lot, guys, for sharing this, you know, personal, touching stories, for being so open and honest.
We admire you as a couple, and thank you so much for agreeing to have an interview with us. It was just amazing.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You guys are great.